And that, my friends, is how you move on to the next round of the Champions League. If you just started watching last season, you really wouldn't know what that's like, but we did it this year. Let's go, baby. I know it's a small move, but it's a big one today against Benfica. It was a great, very exciting match to me, and I'm so excited, guys. I haven't really announced this yet. The next game, whoever we play against, whatever it is, it's going to be at the Montjuic, and I will be going to the next round. I'm like actually losing my mind thinking about that, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself, right? We got to get into this game. There's a lot of good things to get into. This performance overall was arguably one of the cleanest performances from this Barcelona team that I have seen all season. It was remarkable how well they all worked together, just how professional it was. They made it incredibly difficult for Benfica for the vast majority of the match. And yeah, they had some chances at the end, but only 0.74 XG and 8 shots in total in a game that they had to win, right? So they had to push at some points, and they created some chances, but hey, Araujo was good enough, Balde was good enough, and so was Inigo was great. Not just good enough, these guys were fantastic. Chesney, good enough, you know what I mean? And the high lines. By the way, guys, again, you guys come here for the great analysis. The high line with Araujo in it. There's been a lot of doubters. I've been unsure of what he can do at times. Today, he did incredibly well, and so did the entire rest of the team. We're going to work through it a little bit, but we'll just go straight into the ratings because I could yap on for a while, but I just want to talk about how good the boys were. And starting at the back, Chesney did his job pretty much perfectly. I don't remember anything that went wrong. And yeah, he conceded that the header and the corner. Maybe you could ask more from him, but it was a corner. You know what I mean? He's kind of restricted on how far he can come out, and there was a bunch of guys around him. I could probably ask more from him because he does get a hand to it, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. I think a 6.5 is fair for conceding one, but really not that bad. And then I think the back line was fantastic, man. And it's not like they had a ton to do. I think they were, but they were just good enough, right, to take care and clean up and stay high when they needed to. There was plenty of offsides called today in a way that saved us in a significant way plenty of times. Incredible job from these guys, and it's so cool to see this highline work again against a team that had broken it significantly pretty well. It's such a remarkable sign, for that matter, to see them do so well against it, against more or less the same team. Yes, Carreras wasn't there. He was, one of the better players, but substantial performance from the highline nonetheless. I think we'll go one by one. I think Akunde was very solid defensively today. Didn't have a ton of attacking responsibility. You saw him link up with Lamine a few times near the box, but really was further back and had a couple battles with Renato Sanchez. Renato Sanchez in 25 is crazy, by the way. But he had a couple battles with him and overall had a pretty solid performance. I think a 7.5 or an 8 is fair. Araujo, same can be said about him. Was able to come out for a couple of instances, put some tackles on Pavlidis, and just do his job well. I think a 7.5 is fair. Held the high line really well. Never once when they showed the high line replay I don't think, though, he was ever the deepest man. He was stepping up well. Clearly they worked on it. Clearly he's been training for it, and he did it today very well in a way that makes me very excited to see how this, shows up. Inigo Martinez is probably my MVP of those three guys. I think he worked incredibly well on the ball, but was saving a couple tackles and even on a couple of the offside chances, was able to stop them from getting a shot off. I know it doesn't really matter, but it does matter to my rating, in my opinion. 7, and I think is fair for him. Him and Araujo both were very, very solid. Then Balde was also incredible today. I think this was probably the best match we've seen from Alejandro Balde, maybe ever. He was linking up incredibly well. He was defending well. He was being strong on the ball, and he was running into space in a way that was dirty. And yes, I do believe, was Carreras a left back or a right back? I don't really remember, so whatever. But he was playing so incredibly well against whoever he was matched up against, and ended up getting an assist for it, but he could have deserved a lot more. Had a couple shots on goal that just either were off or something went wrong. But hey, fantastic game for him today. I think an 8.5 is very, very fair from one of the most promising fullbacks in the world of football right now. Great job from Balde, turning into Alphonso Davies from Hansi Flick's first season at Bayern, and who could have seen that coming? Me. I saw that coming, not going to lie. But moving into the midfield, I think both of these guys were immaculate. We'll start with Frankie. I think this was also Frankie's best game that we've seen him play. I think his ability on the ball, we saw him turn into space a couple times too and run away from pressure. and you just can't get the ball away from them. It's impossible. And just imagine introducing Kubarsi into this setup. Having the press resistance of all of them is such a luxury that makes this team almost impossible to take the ball from. Again, unless someone screws it up or it's given to Lewandowski, but we won't go there right now. Frankie had a great game today, had a couple of chances to just push the ball wide right at the end of the game there. I'm sure SofaScore is criticizing him for that. It's really not that big of a deal to me. I think a 7.5 and 8 is also fair for Frankie. Pedri, fantastic on the ball. Dirty, so intelligent, knows when to step away from pressure or give the ball back and rotate it around when needed. Was just Pedri. And he was playing defensively really well, had a couple really good recovery tackles. Really good job from Pedri. 8.5, 9 as well. Fantastic performance from the kid who never does worse than an 8.5. I'm so impressed by him. Ballon d'Or run for sure, even though he probably won't get the plaudits that he deserves for it. But moving to the front line, I will start with Dani Olmo. I think Dani Olmo was really good today. Again, there were a couple instances where he was almost there, right? The connections were good. Not his most elite game. He walked away with no goals or assists, right? And he's an attacker. You kind of measure them by that. But good game for him nonetheless. Good, well-rounded performance in the same way I would argue for Frankie as well. So I think a 7.5 is probably fair for Dani, maybe even more. But the big guys are Rafinha and Lamine. I'll get to Lewandowski first. He missed a couple of easier chances. I don't think it's his worst performance we've seen. And I think he linked up okay, put a couple good balls in behind too. The weighting was just slightly off, or maybe the goalkeeper was on. Not his worst performance I've seen. People are going to be upset with him, but we won, and there's not a ton of pressure on him right now, so I'm not going to tank his rating for those missed chances, for him losing the ball a little bit. I think it was a better game for Lewandowski. Some of that link-up was pretty good. I think a 7.5, 7, again, is fair. Same for Dani Olmo. But the best players easily on the pitch were our wide outlets, as you know we've said plenty of times this season. Rafinha and Lamine Yamal were on it. SofaScore has Rafinha as the man of the match. I'm going to give it to Lamine, even though Rafinha has 2 goals and an assist. I think Lamine was fantastic, especially in the first half, while actually fasting for like the first 10 minutes of it, but he was able to break it halfway through the game, or halfway through the first half. Lamine was fantastic today. Absolutely incredible work, was cooking, was finding so much space. They didn't have the ability to double team him every time. And even when he was double teamed, he played his way out of it. Lamine is so good at this game. Such a cheat code, not only as an attacking threat, but breaking out of pressure. Like I've said a countless amount of times. Yeah, he's not a runner in behind necessarily, so you can't just spray it forward and hope he gets onto it. But you can just give it to him and he dribbles around 3-4 guys and creates something beautiful. His first assist to Rafinha, he did all the work, but a great pass in, and Rafinha finished it wonderfully. And then for his second goal, I was like, this has to be a pass. Surely this is a pass. Ended up being a shot and was, perfect side netting from decently outside the top of the box. Well done from my boy yet again. So excited to see him score again as well. It's been a little while. He's been getting a little bit of flack from that. People have been upset with him for him shooting so much, but when they end up like that, you can't. And he deserves my man of the match, in my opinion. I'll give him a 9.5 for that. And Rafinha, I'm going to give him a 9.5 as well, but I'm going to give it to Lamine because I think he does deserve it. Rafinha was really good today, put really good strikes on the ball, was there when we needed him to, and did everything that I've expected from Rafinha this season in a way that makes me so proud that he's a member of this team and so excited to see him continue going. You know what? We have a lot of things to get forward to. I know you guys are all going to go watch the PSG match. You guys might be watching it or might be halftime right now, so I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to be live tomorrow, though, for the Real Madrid match versus Atleti, so the link will be in the description for that. It's big up. That's where I live stream all my matches, so head on over there, create an account, and sign up, and wait for that. You'll get the notification in your email, and I'll see you guys all there. Peace. I'm out of breath now. Whew.